here we go. There we are. All systems go. All right. So, yeah, I'm going to talk about Melody's sketchbooks, or I should say storyboards. Yeah, let's just get right into the sequence and see what's going on. So it looks like we're in a parking lot, and we see race cars, and there's a guy who is looking at himself in the side view mirror, and then we pull out, and we push in again, and there's a woman there. So he sees the woman, and then we have a bit of dialogue. And I guess in this case, she's looking at his car, and he's trying, he's trying to impress her, of course, So he's trying to impress her. They talk about the car. She's not impressed with his car. And, there's a dispute, and she just tells him, why it is that she's, why she thinks that his car won't cut it in the race. They're basically disputing whether or not his car is physically capable of performing in the race, and he says otherwise, and so they have a challenge. And in the race, it looks like, so they set up. Looks like a quick little match. And so we have a bit of a showdown between the two of them. They take off. He hits the nitro, and I guess so at the very beginning, he uses his nitro to get a head start. He pulls far ahead. He hits the corner and drifts around the corner. She drifts around the corner late, but on the straightaway, she looks like she catches up and passes him with her car's superior horsepower, because there was a dispute about that. So, okay, I can say that from the storyboard, pretty clear. I can understand what's going on. And let's get into the fine details now. So, all in all, in terms of your drawing, don't have many disputes about your skill. It's just the kind of thing where the more you do it, the better you'll get with it. You'll find shortcuts. You'll find there's not much I can dispute. It's pretty good, and I think that you'll just get better the more of this that you do. Now, if I look at things continuity-wise, things felt kind of jarring. Actually, I should use a color that's not here. Let's use green. We're not using green right now. Things felt a little jarring between here and here, and the reason for this, the reason why, let me use a thicker pencil. Okay, the reason why things felt a little jarring from here to here is because it looks like we start out far, we get closer, right? So we get closer, and now we're very close, and then we're far again, and then we're close again. All right, so I feel like it almost feels like there's a bump in the road in terms of our scope, because the thing is that every time you shoot a scene, you're catching a certain scope of elements, a scope of like as you zoom in, right? You narrow the scope, so it feels like we're kind of zooming, and then there's kind of like a bit of a bump out. And I think maybe, like I'm seeing from the numbering, maybe this one should be number 3, and that one could be number 4, right? So the idea is, we can do that. Now, the other thing I think is maybe, I do like this shot here, because this shot, if the driver is one of these 3 people, right, then this shot here transitions well into this shot. So I almost wonder if maybe, oh, I see. This is the different car. This is her car. That's his car. Right. Because later on in the scene, when you color coded the cars, like that made it really easy to understand, right? Right, because it's got the sideways rising doors. Okay. So that's her car, and this is her car, and this one's his car. I almost think like for something like this, I know I'm jumping ahead. I haven't figured out how to resolve this little issue here, but this scene here, you can work with focus, meaning that you can place. We've got, this is close, right? This is the foreground. This is kind of our middle ground, and this is our background, right? So the thing is that we can start with our focus on the midground and then perform a focus shift to the background when she appears. So the thing is, we start out focus on him. He's, looking at himself. Actually, if anything, it's not so much that maybe instead of him admiring himself in the mirror, it's more like, he's fixing his hair, he's making sure it looks okay, or there's no zits or anything like that. This way, it's a little more purposeful. So this way, when he sees her, right, like that could be it. Or maybe what he could be doing is he starts out and he's adjusting the mirror. He's like, he's like looking over and he's like, is this mirror in the right spot? Or maybe he's cleaning the mirror, right? So the idea is that we give him something to do. He's cleaning the mirror, and so he looks, and so what happens is he's cleaning the mirror. She's not in frame yet. So you'll need an extra frame in here. You'll need one more frame. You need to insert a frame so you start out where she's not in frame. He is cleaning the spot on the mirror. Keep her framing, by the way. It's pretty good. She appears, and when she appears, then we focus on her. So we focus on her, right? Or rather, his eyes look up, right? So he sees her, and then we focus back to him, and all of a sudden, then we see him like he's dropped the cloth, and now he's changed the order from fixing up the mirror to making sure he looks good, right? So what this does is this, through his actions, we show a little bit of his internal state, right? Because he's like, oh, hey, hot woman, hot woman, 12 o'clock. Better make sure, battle stations, right? That's what we want to do. Is we want to show, we give purpose to his actions, and that, we can see what's going on in his mind, and we instantly know, okay, he's on the warpath, right? He's looking out, he's on the hunt, and so. Great. This I like this little bit right here, right? So he's, hey, see something you like, that this is great. Keep this. This is a very good scene. I like this scene. This is great. He's got some nice muscle here. How fast does she go? And so of course, he's going to do the whole dog and pony show. 6-cylinder V6 engine, turbo GL26 Charger, 300 horsepower, and tops at 120 miles an hour. Right, and so, okay, so great, is that all? That's cute, something funny. Sorry that was rude. Okay, let's see. She's knowledgeable about cars. Pretty knowledgeable. She knows about cars. But he's taking her for someone who doesn't know anything about cars. Obviously, he's going to explain all of that. And I mean, I can see right here that she's trying to provoke him, right? She's going to provoke him into a fight he can't win. Because she has the knowledge, she knows more about the car than, or rather, she just knows that I suppose this fellow is new to this particular league of racing. So obviously he's showing up with half the horsepower. He's showing up with half the horsepower that he needs. And man, what is this guy doing here, really? I mean, what's this guy doing showing up to the fight with half the horsepower that he needs? That would be one thing. I don't know what to say about that. It's just that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so we're off to the races, right? I like this shot. This shot's good, and like in terms of the framing, it's good. Right. This is fine. This is all. Now, let's see. Again, in terms of I always like to give them something to do. I learned something about nitro systems. I actually had to look this up. And my understanding of nitrous systems is that the way that nitrous works is there's a tank of N2O, that's the nitrous oxide, and tank that about that big gives you about a minute of turbo boost. And the way it works is that the tank sits somewhere in your car. Sometimes the clandestine versions have the thing sitting in like a driver's side door. Like they find all places to secure this tank. In any case, the line goes from the tank and runs, maybe through the hood of the car, and sits around the fuel injectors. Varies depending on the installation, whether it's a wet or a dry, or wherever they happen to be running the N2O into. And the thing is that in the tank, it exists as a liquid. And another thing about the tank is that because it's a liquid, there's a kind of a drinking straw in the tank, a pickup tube. And so the tank is almost always never flat, it's always kind of tilted. It's always on a tilt. It requires gravity to pull the liquid to the bottom so that the drinking straw can reach the liquid. You hold the tank the wrong way, it reaches vapor, and vapor is not good. Vapor will not give you the desired extra horsepower. The other thing I learned is that when the car is at rest, the entire line from the gas tank, from the N2O tank, to the engine, to the injector, that entire gas line, it's not the line itself doesn't really hold pressure all that well, not as well as the tank does. And also, there's heat and that kind of thing. And so as a result, the liquid within the line, at room temperature and at atmospheric pressure, it will boil. It will boil and will turn to a gas. And so what happens is that if you don't use your nitrous system for a while, the entire line fills up with the gaseous or gaseous form of nitrous oxide. So if you were to suddenly try to use your turbo system, you'll be pushing a lot of gas, right? So the thing is that the liquid will start to flow along the line, and it will take time for that liquid to get all the way up to the injectors, and then for the car to receive its turbo boost. So there's a delay if that whole line is filled with gas, which is why oftentimes if you look at some of, I saw some videos of like the starts of some of these races, what they do is they run a purge. So they have a button on the dashboard, and yeah, you've got this button here on the dashboard. That's the purge button. That's not the turbo button. So what they do is they hit that button before they actually get going. When they're still at the starting line, they start pushing that button in preparation to prepare the nitrous system to purge the gaseous form and to get the liquid all the way up to the engine so that it's ready for use. So you'll see them pushing that button, and somewhere on the car, sometimes it's on the hood, sometimes it's up the side or whatever, you'll see them purging. And when they purge, the gaseous form is actually transparent. It's not until the liquid hits, what happens is that at the end where the engine is, there's a solenoid valve, the purging solenoid valve. So that it's an electronically triggered valve, triggered by that button, opens the valve up, and it just lets the pressure out. And it lets the nitrous oxide out. And while it's doing it, if it's the gaseous form, you can't see it. It's more or less invisible. But when when the system's finally properly primed, the liquid starts spurting out of that purge valve, and it instantly gasifies, and it will condense the air around it. It makes steam. It makes cold steam. It makes condensation, and you'll see plumes of cold steam blasting up the top. That's when the system's ready. So a lot of times you'll see when they at the starting line, they start hitting their purge button. So what I would say is if we look at this scene, whoops, hang on, let me just flip back. This scene here, right? They both drive up, he drives up and sees her, right? So and so he reaches down and hits that button. And then, so basically it's like when he looks at her, he pushes the button, you can tell he's priming his nitrous system, right? So he makes eye contact with her, hits the button, and then you see like the plume of nitrous like shooting up. So that's a good thing, right? Because it shows us like, all right, we'll settle this. We are going to settle this. And, it's like, I got my nitrous system ready. Now, another thing about nitrous is that, again, the button is not used to trigger the system. It's very often a toggle switch, meaning you flick it up and the system is armed. It's an arming switch. So you flick it up, it's ready. You flick it up, it's off. And so you could show one of those little toggle button covers. There's like a little cover cap on it, and what you do is you flick the cover cap up, right, and then you arm the switch. So this prevents accidental operation of the nitrous system. So you'll see, if you want to have a control panel view, you can see him flick the cap up, click the thing on, and then he hits the purge button. And so that's a really good way to do it. And of course, if you flick the cap down, it automatically turns the toggle button off. Now, the other thing about the nitrous system is that the way that the nitrous system works is that you don't have to push a button to make it go turbo. What it does is it senses the gas pedal when the gas pedal hits the bottom, when the throttle is full open, meaning when you floor that thing, when it's fully down, then the nitrous kicks in, then the turbo kicks in. So the thing is that even if you're like mid on the if you're midway on the accelerator, the nitrous system will not do anything. You have to floor it for the nitrous system to do its job. So these are all key things. So instead of him with this shot here, where he's purging use that shot for when he's purging the nitrous system, okay? But when he guns the engine, goes forward, then you can see the foot slam down and it goes. There are different forms of. Sometimes the engines have a supercharger, and you see that they have like smoke stacks on the front of them. They often use these for demolition derbies and that kind of thing. What they do is they have the nitrous system is actually vented through the engine, and they call it a boom button instead. And when they do that, flames start shooting out the front because they're shooting the nitrous at the top. It's really bad on the engine, but they do this anyway because it makes a great fireworks show. At the expense of the engine. So you can do things like that as well, right? So you can either show the twin V's of nitrous shooting out, or one jet or two jets of cold steam shooting out when he does the purge, and then show him flooring it, right? Because you've got other shots where you see her feet on working the pedals and that kind of thing. So those I think would be a good idea. Now, seeing as just seeing jumping ahead, seeing how she's working the pedals with her heels on, right? Now, this is a really tricky thing to do, right? And I've never worn heels. From what I hear, heels are really hard to walk around in, and I imagine they're kind of hard to work the pedals with as well. So maybe, seeing as the lady who starts the race off gets out of her car, maybe you could even have a scene where the female driver, actually hands her shoes, right? And she's got the shoes, over her back or something like that, right? So I mean, that can be a thing, right? It's like, hold my shoes for me, right? She can say, hold my shoes for me, or something like that, right? So I mean, that would be just another good consideration, and then have her working the pedals barefoot. So I'm just looking for other things, right? Other little considerations, because it's like when she gets serious, she takes her shoes off. So, just little considerations, little things that you could put into there. Now, what else can we see? I think maybe here where he takes where he's taking the extreme turn and he's drifting. So, as I understand it, drifting is something where you put your car into an intentional skid. You purposely lose traction, and the way that you do it, I think, is you have to initiate the turn. So you're initiating the turn with the car to get it to start turning. And you also pull the emergency brake, which locks up the back wheels. And so the thing is that usually if a wheel is turning and the wheel is turning and the turning is matching with the ground movement, you've got traction. And so you can get steering, and the wheels will influence the direction, the motion of the car. And so, when would you want it so that the wheels don't influence the motion of the car? Well, I would imagine that's a time when you have a very, very sharp turn. And the thing is that you need to pre-turn your car. You want to reorient your car before you actually reach the turn. So if let's work this out. let's say, and this is another thing I would suggest, is if you're going to do storyboards, especially for things like racing, something which is very spatially demanding. It's a very spatially demanding. It's a spatially demanding situation. So you can draw, bird's eye views, top down, and figure out spatially what is going on in something like a sharp turn like this, right? So let's say we have a sharp turn, and so normally a car, cars have a turning radius to them. They have a turning radius, and that turning radius may, well, I guess maybe if we had a car about this big, its turning radius would be something like this, right? And that's fine, right? That this is all fine and good if your turning radius matches the turning of the curve. But let's say our car's not that small. Let's say our car is actually a lot larger and something like that. Or maybe we want to pull a tighter turn. So maybe what I'll do is this. I'm going to decrease that little inner turn. Let's make it so that we can conceivably have a much tighter turn. Right? So the thing is that what we could do is that a car could, say, conceivably go around something like this, right? So let's work it out. The car could begin its turn and turn like this, and if it did a normal turn as opposed to a handbrake turn, it would do something, it might even wind up wiping out, right? If we were to follow just a regular turn. But that's not what we want to do. We're going to try and pre-turn the car. So instead, what I guess the driver would do is the driver is going to start turning the wheels right away. And plus going to be moving pretty fast, right? We're going to move really, really fast. So then they pull the handbrake, and that causes the car. So I'm going to figure out, these are where the front wheels, how the front wheels are oriented. We're going to pull the handbrake to cause the rear tires to stop. And whenever the tires are no longer moving relative to the ground, that's when you lose traction, and they will no longer influence. They start sliding. They no longer influence the direction of the car. So now we've initiated a skid. And the thing is that if you think of the car as having not just one velocity, but rather two velocities, like if you imagine that there's two weights, like a dumbbell, like this, right? And they're connected by a mass, right? So now what happens is the butt end of the car, I guess what happens is two things are happening. Number one, we're applying maybe a bit of a braking force to the front, and we're also making it so the tires on the back have lost traction. So what's happening now is that the back end is moving faster than the front end. So I'm going to draw a small arrow for the front end velocity and a long arrow for the back end velocity. And so I'm just going to treat these as two separate masses, as front and back. So F and then front and back. And maybe I'll let's set this one up as a hold frame, throw in an additional frame here, and try and treat this over time. So I'm going to imagine that this is going to jump ahead to here. So I'm going to track the motion of the front mass only. So that goes there. Oh, let me turn on the light table as well, so we can see that is going to go around something. Oops. Just a second. Okay, something like this. And throw in another frame, and I'm just animating it around the corner, something like that. Okay, so this is what's happening to the front mass, and I'm just going to draw the F on that, just so we can tell that that's the front. And then, of course, there's an acceleration as well, so something like that. And also, there is a deceleration, so that makes sense, right? We've got our deceleration. We can see how the front mass is behaving, and now what we have is the back mass. So I'm going to draw the back mass maybe in red. Oh, let me turn my paper white for a second, because that is somewhat distracting. Okay, so now we've got the back mass here. All right, so I'm going to draw the back mass jackknifing around. Right, so this would be like an ideal situation. Oh, and of course, the back mass will probably still have a little bit of lingering momentum. Right, so this way, what's going to happen is that it's going to fishtail around a bit. Oh, and it looks like I accidentally drew one extra. Yeah, there we are. I accidentally overlapped it. So something maybe what'll happen actually is that because the front steers, the front will kind of come out something like that. So we can see. And if you want to, I mean, you could, like, this is just the initial breakdown. If you want to, you can even say, let's track a tire. And maybe in this case, the tire, because we can actually track which direction the tire is pointed. We can show. And we can do it also to, here, whoops. Did I miss this tire? I missed this tire. That's not the front tire. My bad, that was the back tire. So we can show that this tire, actually, hang on, let me, gets muddled very fast. So I'm showing that these two tires are turned because they're going to stay parallel. Whoops. Right. And when you do this, you can even connect them. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and connect them. And you can get the tire tracks. Like, here, let me throw in one more layer. In fact, I'll just do it on another layer up here. I'll set this one to hold mode. And I'll just get the whole, I'll just treat that as like one long frame like that. Okay, good. So I'm going to go forward a frame and just continue and continue and continue and continue. So this is like action choreography, right? We can get it right down to the tire tracks. It's almost like, and you'll even see that the tire tracks will start to crisscross over one another. Let me turn on the light table just so I can follow what it is that I was tracing. In fact, just do it straight, and then you can round it up afterwards. So, there we go. Oh man, this is neat. And then we have the back end. So I suppose that the back tires would be, let's go down one layer. Right, so back layer. And these back tires will always be straight. You can see kind of how off kilter I am with things. But that's all right. I mean, it's I'm not being particularly careful. Oh, in fact, here, they're always going to line up, right? Those back tires will always be lined up. So, line them up. And, yeah. So, line up like that, line up like that. Okay, cool. Then we'll go up to another layer, and I'll start connecting these back tires. So, this connects to that. That connects to that tire. That one goes there. And that goes there. So you can see how like the back tire is now starting to go wide. And then we've got, here goes here. And, oh, are we missing anything? I feel like we are. Oh, yes, we are. Yes, so this one will connect that way. And that one here will connect that way. Right, so you can get it down to the tire, you could even get it down to the tire treads. But we get the, then what you can do is you can, when you show the person doing the maneuvers, like when they start doing the hand over hand and start running the wheel, at what point do they start doing the hand over hand? So it looks like, before they actually hit the turn is when they start performing the maneuvers for the wheel. And then there's also when they have to pull the brake. So it means that you'll even have to show one hand coming over to the brake. So that means that he'll have to move his hand far to the right because he has to turn the wheel over. So he'll move his hand far to the right, and then as he pulls it down, he pulls up on the brake. So that he'll have to turn his wheels. He needs to initiate the turn with his front wheels. So I'm guessing the parking brake may actually lock up all four wheels. But he needs to get he needs to get the turn initiated, and then he has to pull the parking brake. Right? So the idea is that we're trying to figure out, do the action breakdown, figure out at which stage do these things happen. Because if you're going to animate it, right, like either you're going to have to study some footage of this maneuver being pulled off, because I'm guesstimating all of this, right? So either you have to see some of this footage of a handbrake turn being executed, or you're going to have to guesstimate it like the way I'm doing it. But right, so the thing is just making this drifting work. So like this is like an ideal situation where there's really a minimal amount of drifting. Like this is like a super, super tight turn. It's very possible that if he had more momentum, right, the more momentum you have, the more slingshotting out you get. So there is that as well. But the idea is to get the car turned. So like the idea is to get the car pre-turned like this. So you might be sliding, you're trying to crab the car, and you can draw like snapshot. And so this way, look, the car is already turned around, something like that, right? You can draw snapshots of the car as it skids. And again, this can help you greatly, because later, once you get all this snapshotting done, I'm just going to merge these three layers a second. Just say merge selected. Okay. I could take a shot like this, and then here's the cool part, is if you're in Photoshop, press Control T, and then if you hold Control and start dragging the handles, then you can perform a perspective warp. So in this case, let me just merge that layer down as well. Okay. In this case, I can take these corner handles, move that over. The wonderful thing about the digital age is that you can perform a perspective distortion and figure out from which vantage point you want to be viewing this whole thing, all of this action. And mash it until it looks right. And if you want to apply your Dutch tilt and all that, it's really easy, right? So this way you can really, really, really control, like down to like a nitpicky degree. Get that action until it looks right, until the kinetics of the car movement, like feels really, really good. And then you can hand something like this off, right? Like you can panoramic the whole thing. You can choose to either take little pieces of this out and use this for your storyboard, or you can take this whole panoramic image and show this and hand this off to animators, and they'll know exactly what the heck it is you're telling them to do. This could be animated as one giant picture, and then it could be, they could just use like the camera panning tools and follow the action around, right? So it can be cropped and then dynamically done in post. This gives you a lot of control, lots and lots and lots of control. So that's why I know it looked like a lot of pain in the butt to do all this, but it pays off. It pays off because it's a preparatory work that you can leverage and leverage and leverage. And the thing is that keep the original undistorted version in case you want to shoot it from different angles, in case you want to do any instant replays or any of that kind of stuff. And it will really, really give your storyboards this feeling of authenticity. It will really feel like, oh man, I can see all the action happening. Like this is the really, really cool stuff, because you can see the skill of the drivers and just what they're doing and that's, it's a racing car. It's a racing scene, right? And I think those are really, dare I say it, pivotal. They're very, very pivotal to the to the excitement of a scene like this. So, and then I see. Let's see. Okay, so she's. Let's see. It looks like he pulls ahead. And maybe something like this, right? It's like maybe we show him looking up. So I would suggest take this shot here, and let me just throw in another blank layer because I need to doodle. Again, I would maybe suggest have this frame. Oh, I see. You have ABC. 36 ABC. So something like this would maybe go. First we see him. He looks up. Then we run that. And then we maybe run that one. That's good. Then we return to that, and then we go here. That's what I'm thinking. So the idea is that, or maybe something like, let's see, something like this shot here goes to that. So he's looking ahead. He looks up. Then we go to this one, then that one, then that one, and then we return to this one and we go that one. So you see what I mean? This way, it's like he looks up, she goes, she's long gone, and then he and then the next thing that he does is we show him just returning his gaze so that he's looking straight forward. Or it doesn't have to bounce here; it can just bounce to there if you wanted to. Yeah. So I mean, you see this whole part here, right? Like you see how that kind of changes now as a result of all that action breakdown. The 2D action breakdown, figuring it out from above. So yeah, sorry, I've made much more work for you. That's how it is. That's how it is. So anyway, yeah, it'll really, I think it will greatly improve your action scenes. It will really give them that it'll really feel like it's happening. So yeah, let's see what else we've got. Yeah. These shots are fine. Yeah. Because I guess in this case, she's showing that, the superior horsepower of the car is enough. As I understand it, when it comes to nitrous oxide, what the nitrous oxide does, the nitrous oxide, the NO2 system, it adds a certain amount of horsepower. It depends on the nozzles depends on, number one, the base horsepower of your car, and it also depends on the setup of the nitrous system. So the thing about the nitrous system is that it can provide a certain amount of horsepower on top of what your car already has. So, during the stage where they're talking about the technical specifics of it, you can say what he can say how much more horsepower his nitrous system will give. But I think an important thing to consider is that nitrous does not give you more horsepower for free. Number one, there's a limit to how long the tank will run. So if you start shooting more nitrous into the engine, the shorter the supply will be. The other thing is nitrous does put more strain on the engine. As a result of increasing the horsepower, you're running the cylinders with a lot more power, force. The cylinders are generating a lot more power than they're designed to handle. And so, yeah, you can crack pistons and that sort of thing. So, I mean, even in a situation like this, you could make it so that instead of, it means that her car with its horsepower, with its horsepower is already more powerful than his car with its, additional horsepower. Or you can make it so that, yeah, the guy has a nitrous system, which is really powerful, and as a result, he breaks his engine in the middle of the thing, right? So it's not just that she pulls ahead. It's more like he's like, she pulls ahead, and he's like, ha, I got you now, slams on the gas. His car starts to pull up, and all of a sudden, bang, right? Something happens under the hood, some smoke starts pulling out, he's throwing a rod or something like that. And that's why his car drops out of the race, right? Because he pushed his car too hard. He used a system that the car was not designed to handle, and so it failed. He experienced a critical failure in the middle of a race. These things can and do happen. So again, it's all things to help lend to the authenticity of what is happening. So something like that. So yeah, I hope those can give you some insights. I'm not going to tell you exactly what you should do, but I think. I hope you can pick and choose whatever you can handle before the deadline. But yeah, I'll talk to you soon. I better get to the other people's work. And sorry you had to wait for this. I'll talk to you later.